Hello and welcome to another fantasy football tournament series, number 68. And this is the first one in the series involving women's national teams. I've gone with the Women's Confederations Cup, a tournament that does not exist, unlike with the men's, with the Confederations Cup that takes place a year before the World Cup. There is no Women's Confederations Cup, and I thought it'd be a neat idea to basically apply the same to women's national teams. So I took the current champions of each confederation, as well as the current world champion and the host nation of the World Cup in 2019. As we know, the host nation for the World Cup also hosts the Confederations Cup the year prior, as sort of the dress rehearsal for the main tournament. And being that we had a lot of regional tournaments take place in just the last few months, I figure it's a great time, a good concept to come up with a tournament like this. So there are 8 countries, 2 groups of 4, 2 go through, semis, third place, final. And the participants are as follows. So the host nation for this tournament is France, as they will also be the host nation of the Women's World Cup in 2019. Brazil, the current Copa Femenina champions of South America. Nigeria, the current African Women's champions. Canada qualify as the runners-up of the CONCACAF Women's Championship because the United States qualify for this hypothetical tournament already as the world champion. The United States won the CONCACAF Women's Championship back in October, and Canada finishes runners-up, so the rule states that the runners-up of the tournament in which the world champion wins qualifies to the tournament, similar to Spain and Italy in 2012, where Italy qualified for the Confederations Cup as runners-up of Euro 2012 because Spain had already qualified as the world champion. So, yeah. And then in Group B, we have the United States, who qualifies as the world champion, the Netherlands, who are the current European champions, New Zealand, the Oceanian champions, and Japan, the current women's Asian champions. So, let's jump right into this tournament. The opening game between France and Brazil. And you have Nigeria and Canada later on in the same group. I'm going with France is the better team, but I'm going with a draw here. I do think Brazil are in the downturn of their quote-unquote golden era of players. But for entertainment purposes, let's say France starts off this tournament slowly, and I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. And then between Nigeria and Canada, I'm going to go with another draw here, and this one would be a high-scoring 2-2 draw. We have France, Nigeria, Canada versus Brazil. France versus Nigeria, I'm going with a 2-0 victory for France. Canada versus Brazil, I think Canada just has more depth than Brazil. They've always been a strong force on the women's scene. Like I said, Brazil generation is kind of going on the way out. They have a few players like Cristiane and Marta who are in the downturn of their careers. So I think Canada would actually win this game. A narrow game, like 1-0 over Brazil. Not very many goals here. Brazil versus Nigeria. I've gone with a 2-1 victory for Brazil. And then Canada versus France. Another 2-1 victory, this one for France. And so that means France wins the group on 7 points. Canada comes in second, 4 points. More number of goals scored than Brazil, also on 4 points. 4 goals scored for Canada, 3 goals scored for Brazil. Same goal difference, by the way. And Nigeria in last with 1 point. So Brazil and Nigeria are out. France and Canada go through. Moving on to the next group. Group B, USA versus the Netherlands and New Zealand versus Japan. I would go with a win here for the US. To start off with only a 1-0 victory, I think the Netherlands would pushed them very hard as the European champions, 1-0 for the USA. And then between New Zealand and Japan, I would say that Japan will win this game, and they'll win 3-1. So 3-1 victory for Japan. USA versus New Zealand, a 4-0 victory for the USA. Japan versus the Netherlands. I'm going to go with the Netherlands to get revenge from their elimination to the Japanese back in the knockout stages of the 2015 World Cup. Not really an upset. I mean, I think Japan still are a better side, but the Netherlands will win this game, and it'll be 2-1. 2-1 victory for the Dutch. And then the Netherlands versus New Zealand. I'm going to go with just a 1-0 victory for the Netherlands. These two sides played each other pretty close in the last World Cup. New Zealand themselves an improved team. Netherlands, amazingly, as the European champion, they had to go through the playoffs in order to qualify for the World Cup. It suggests that maybe they're not yet quite where they need to be in order to be actual contenders to win the Women's World Cup. They are a dark horse. I don't think they're one of the favorites, though, because of the relative inexperience at the highest level in women's competition, specifically in the World Cup. It was a great achievement for them to win the Euros, but I would put about 5 or 6 other teams ahead of Holland right now as far as who can win the World Cup. But here, I'm going to go a 1-0 victory for the Netherlands. Then Japan versus the USA, a big rivalry that has brewed in the last several years of women's football. This is going to be a 0-0 draw. A 0-0 draw between Japan and the United States. So the United States wins the group on 7 points. Hair here. The Netherlands comes in second with 6. Japan comes in third with 4. New Zealand comes in last with 0. So Japan and New Zealand are out. Moving on to the semifinals. France versus the Netherlands and USA versus Canada. Because France are hosting this, I also think France are a better side than the Dutch are. I'm going to go with let's say a high-scoring game, a 3-2 victory for France. And then the USA versus Canada, another CONCACAF rivalry between two powerhouses from CONCACAF. I'm going to go with a 3-1 victory for the USA. And then the third place game between the Netherlands and Canada. I'm going to go with a 2-1 victory for Canada. Again, Canada, more pedigree in history in Women's World Cups. Quarterfinals on home soil in 2015. I think they're a better team now than they were 4 years ago. Canada is one of the dark horses for World Cup next year. I think they will go on a deep run as well in France. And Netherlands finishes in 4th in this tournament. So Netherlands finishes in 4th, Canada's in 3rd. And then the final between host nation France and the United States. The United States would win. Objectively speaking, the U.S. is the best women's national team in the world. It has been for some time. France would put up a spirited defense, but it is the current world champions in the United States that we're talking about. So, a score line 2-0 for the U.S. And actually, it appears I have the U.S. winning this tournament, only conceding a single goal, which it sounds just about right because I think the U.S. has something like 10 or 11 clean sheets in their last 10 or 11 friendlies played. That's just crazy. So the USA wins the Women's Confederations Cup. France comes in second. Canada comes in third. The Netherlands comes in fourth. Leave a comment below, like, subscribe. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow, God willing, where I do the last group of the AFC Asian Cup 2019 profiles. Group F: Japan, Oman, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. So hopefully, I'll see you guys, God willing. Take care and peace.